meetings in the past is we've presented the financials and financial information and the operations overview in the information meeting, and then we've included links in the, so we won't go through it a second time, maybe sit through it twice. We've got links in the LAC agenda subsequent to this, so maybe I'll just, without any further ado, just kind of step into our information meeting. We've all already done introductions, so basically what we're going to be doing is going over some quick facts on the rate structure and the water system in Bowen Bay. And we've got a graph on consumption behavior for the past year. And then we've got a financial report section in which we'll review the financial results for the previous year, the 5-year financial plan that was approved by Council in March from 2019 to 2023, and the reserve balances, and got some information on infrastructure replacement costs for Bowen Bay's utilities, water and utility infrastructure. And then Glen's going to go over the water quality report that we file with Vancouver Coastal Health. And then we'll question period and move into the LAC meeting after that. So to talk about the quick facts and rate structure, I'm going to turn this part of the presentation over to Annette.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick summary of what you probably are aware of already. Number of connections in Bowen Bay is 59, and the water comes from 3 drilled groundwater wells. Meters are read between June 1st and September 30th on a monthly basis. The annual flat rate for the connected lots is $705. For the unconnected lots, $447. We have 2 unconnected lots in Bowen Bay. Included in this annual flat rate are 240 imperial gallons on average per day during those summer months when the meters are read. And there are charges for excess consumption between June and the end of September. So for the first 7,200 imperial gallons per month, no extra charge. And then, as you can see, it goes to 2 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents if it's above 12,001 gallon. It's Bowen Bay is billed annually, and this year's bill went up today. We are also encouraging, having started this year, all homeowners to give us their email addresses and phone numbers so we can contact them quickly if we detect a leak during the monthly meter readings, and that can be done easiest through our website.
Thanks, Annette.
Any questions on that?
Is the graph going to be in here?
Yeah,
Yes,
that'll
next.
be the next slide. Thank you, Annette. So this graph shows the connections across the bottom, and in increasing order of consumption, it shows the consumption of each household. So consumption ranges from just down by about 3,000 meters down below. I'm just guessing at that number because I don't know exactly what it is, all the way up to close to 90,000 imperial. So I said meters, I meant to say gallons, imperial gallons. The arithmetic average consumption for Bowen Bay household is 32,660 cubic meters, and it's a straight arithmetic average. As you can see by looking at that graph, about 35 of the homes in Bowen Bay are consuming less than that volume, and the remaining 20 are consuming a little bit more. The consumption numbers of 42, 100, and 58, 170 are simply there to provide you with some context in terms of what those households are consuming, where we're at the graph. In terms of the average daily consumption per connection, that translates to about 77 gallons per day. And above 240 gallons per day during the summer months is considered to be excessive consumption, and it triggers the tiered rates. Glen, would you like to add something to that in terms of reasonability like the 77 gallons per day in
Yeah,
comparison to the average, sorry?
Certainly with respect to your rate structure, it's a low value compared to what's permitted under your base allotment. I think I'm just doing some math in my head because I was using liters in some of the other systems, but I think it's generally consistent, maybe a little on the lower side than some of the other
Well, can I
systems. But
speak to that?
please.
You must remember in Bowen Bay, there's a large proportion of seasonal dwellers.
Yeah,
We should bring that, you know,
yeah,
down considerably.
Oh, okay, hence the lower consumption.
yeah,
Okay.
we're definitely seeing that in some of the other systems as well. There's more
Yeah.
weekend and transient.
Well, you know, it's like you go here, you go from this month until essentially just about till June,
Yep.
with probably a third of the residents gone except for occasionally being here on the weekend.
Yeah.
And some just gone.
Yep.
Okay, if there's no further questions on the graph here, I'm going to move into the 2018 operating results. The first column here is showing the budgeted results for 2018. Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Good.
We just,
John O'Donnell.
I'm
Are you
Ron.
wet?
I'm Annette. Hi, Jim. Can I join the table?
Yes, please do. Welcome. We're just in the information part of the meeting, and we just went over the billing structure and are getting to the financial reports here. So in terms of the 2018 operating results, we had budgeted about $41,000 in water utility fees and $1,300, which is returned on the reserve for capital infrastructure replacement, for total revenues of $42,300. We had
I have
budgeted.
a question on that.
Yes, please.
Prior years, there was always a breakout for also for overusage, and I don't see that in this at all.
For overusage.
Yes, it's what she bills for when people
So for those few
So
that
overuse
the
their 240 gallons is the rate structure for us.
Okay.
Okay? Is that being done?
I'm not.
That would be in the revenue, would it not?
It would be in the revenue. Yeah.
But
It
is
would
it
be
being done?
included and picked up in the
Yes.
revenue, but we're not in a, so what, I'm not
Well,
sure
my
what was
question
provided
is,
in the
my
past.
question is, when we're looking at our 2018, which we are doing right now,
Mhm.
right? Where is the revenue for those properties that use more than 240 gallons?
It's included in the water utilities fees revenue, so
Okay, so
it would be included with the flat revenue, so it's,
anybody got a calculator? 57 times,
I,
705,
57 times.
so,
$705, that's not. And I know, or make it 56 times $705.
okay. And that's doing that.
Because that takes down,
Just for 56.
Yeah.
right?
56 homes times 705 a year is what we're paying.
Yeah, well, there's two properties that aren't, so I just cut one of them down.
We got 38.
Yeah, 3940.
Okay.
And the remainder in the water utility fees budget would be from the variable rate, yes.
Good.
Okay.
I would like to see, I think that's a nice thing for everybody to see.
We don't track that in our financial systems separately. I
Okay.
mean, we could
Okay.
pick it up, I mean, it would be a lot of extra effort for us to pick it up, but in our financial system, we just capture water utility fees revenue, but we can calculate it
Just
out.
do the basic.
Okay, this
Yeah,
is
calculation to break it
a
out.
template that's generated by your financial.
Right?
This is a template that's generated by typical for all.
Yeah, essentially, the revenue for Bowen Bay water utility fees is all coded to one account.
Yeah, but this is the same template we'd be using for.
This is the same template we've been
Looking at
using
it,
for all
right?
the other water systems, yes, that's correct.
Yes.
So in the budgeted expenditures, if The budgeted expenditures for the year were $35,000. I mean, that's the sum of the staff compensation line down to the legal, audit, and insurance, and we had a budgeted contribution to reserves of $7,200 almost for for expenses equal to revenues of $42,391. On the actual side of the business, we had $44,600 worth of revenue. That includes $1,500 for a connection fee. There was one connection fee included in that revenue. The remainder of the revenue came from water utility fees, and the actual interest earned on investment was slightly higher than the budget, for total revenues of about $46,200. The actual expenditures were $33,000, which were $2,000 less than the budget provision, which allowed for a contribution to reserves of about $12,755, which is about $5,000 higher, $5,575 higher than budgeted.
So actually, we only have one property that's not connected, not two.
Okay. Any questions on the 2018 operating results?
No, it's good.
Not, I'm going to move forward to the capital results. Essentially, there was a provision of $12,500 for any equipment or infrastructure renewal that may be required during the year. In terms of the actuals, there was a water utilities vehicle acquired in 2018, and the cost of that vehicle is used exclusively in the water utilities, and the cost of that was prorated to each utility based on the number of connections, prorated number of connections in each system over the total number of connections.
Sorry,
Allison.
Raj, I was just killing time. We hadn't seen any strange cars in the parking lot.
Oh.
I thought you were having a turkey now.
So if really nothing else in 2018's capital results, in terms of the 2019 to 2023 5-year operating plan, essentially we used 2019 as a base budgeting year, and for the outer years we were not aware of any outside of normal costs that were going to occur, so we used budget assumptions that were listed in the in the detailed package that was sent out, and so we used inflation percentages ranging from 1.5% to about 2.5%, and the balancing number is in user fees for those outer years. But this 5-year financial plan is visited every year and redone every year, so we are currently working on the 2020 to 2024 financial plan. In terms of our capital 5-year financial plan, there was a provision included in case equipment needed to be replaced. There was nothing anticipated for replacement in 2019, and our public works manager didn't feel there was anything that would be required in 2022 either. So, sorry about the top of the graph being cut off. In terms of the reserve balances, at the beginning of 2018, the Bowen Bay Reserve for capital renewal and replacement had a balance of $81,800. The contribution to reserves, which was shown in the previous operating statement for 2018, was $12,700. We used $5,500 from the reserve, leaving a closing balance at the end of December of $89,000 in reserve for capital renewal and replacement. In terms of our infrastructure replacement cost, I don't have exact data. I believe our infrastructure in Bowen Bay is approximately 39 years old. Most of it was put in about 1980. It has if all of that infrastructure needed to be replaced, the replacement cost of it is currently $1.2 million.
Where did you get that figure?
We've looked at it a few different ways, and we're currently working with an asset manager as well. So I looked at it by actually taking our original cost and multiplying it by an inflationary factor to bring it up to today's dollars, what it would cost to replace it.
Did you were aware of the engineering study that was done?
Pardon?
Were you aware of the engineering study that was done?
I'm not aware of the engineering
Yeah.
did it identify the replacement cost?
Yes.
Okay, I will.
And not replacement cost, but bringing it up to quality standards.
Okay,
And it was an inflated cost, and if I address that, I'll address that issue later.
so what this is if the entire system needed to be replaced, I'm not aware of what the engineering study would have identified, but we can look for that. We came up to a similar number. Glen's team had taken a look at the actual equipment that is out there and applied values to it, and came up to a similar number as I did, and we're currently working with an asset manager who's looking at the individual assets, and we will also make sure that, we'll compare this number to the number that he comes up with as well. But currently, our estimate is that the replacement cost of Bowen Bay infrastructure is $1.2 million. That being said, the reserve balance for replacement and renewal is $89,000. As a general rule of thumb for brand new infrastructure, so if we replace that infrastructure to last year, as a rule of thumb, we should be putting aside 1% a year for the replacement of that infrastructure, which would put us, based on the replacement cost, in the right ballpark in terms of the annual contribution. However, I just want to point out, this infrastructure is 39 years old, so we're probably quite far behind in terms of what our reserve balance should be in the event that we have to go for replacement or renewal of infrastructure. With that being said, I don't think the entire system would require replacement all at one time either, but I still think the reserve balances are light.
Well, I think since.
This should be an item for discussion added onto the agenda for the LAC meeting,
Yeah.
because there's nothing, we should have a business arising from the minutes, I need to talk about the study.
I'll be quiet now.
Okay, so that being said, I am concluding the financial part of the presentation, and I'm gonna turn the clicker and the presentation over to Glen.
Great. And just for my own awareness, what's the date of the study that you're referring to?
We'll deal with that in the appropriate time, which is going to be in the next meeting.
Okay, fair enough.
That's what Allison asked for.
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm going to start with a discussion on water quality. So there's a requirement that the municipality tests and submits water samples for a variety of constituents for approval, and one is total coliforms, the other is E. coli, and thirdly is a couple products or constituents that are disinfection byproducts that are just used as a proxy for treatment effectiveness and potential health risks. Also, there is a requirement to test daily for chlorine residuals and report those. Operators try to maintain an overall average of 0.2 parts per million, which they were successful in doing. There are obviously daily swings, both highs and lows, but certainly the averages exceeded that 0.2 and met all health requirements. In terms of the total coliforms and E. coli, those two met all Vancouver coastal health requirements. So in essence, all reported samples met water quality requirements and for safe water. Disinfection byproducts in this system are consistently low, actually, quite a bit lower than other systems. The specific reasoning for that is not yet determined, but it's a good outcome, not a bad outcome. In this case, no boil water advisories were issued in 2018. Just some highlights in terms of the water distribution and storage system. There's approximately 1,100 lineal meters of pipe, most of which, if not all of which, are 100 millimeters in diameter. There is a 50 millimeter diameter interconnect with the King Edward Bay system. However, this is normally closed, and I don't believe that there was any activation of this system within the last year.
I think the branch lines are 50.
Sorry?
Branch lines are 50.
Yeah, the main, yeah. I thought there was some smaller stuff as well. I think it was pointed out that perhaps this number is now incorrect, but reporting consistent with what Annette had indicated earlier, is that confirmed that 59 bills are gone out? Yeah, okay, so 59 active service connections. Annette already mentioned there's 3 drilled wells, all in a single pressure zone, and there's 2 8,000 imperial gallon above ground storage tanks. Chlorination and a mixing tank for that is the form of storage and treatment.
And backup generators still functional?
As far as I know, I can certainly make an inquiry
Just
with
wondering.
operations, yeah.
We're not gonna have any power outages this winter,
Maybe
too?
there's an interesting check on status of backup generator.
Consider yourself lucky. I was in conversations with folks in Sacramento today.
Oh, yeah. Despite all the excitement in the neighboring systems, Bowen Bay's system seems to be performing well. Both the reservoir levels and the well output seems to be stable, and there's no apparent change in that performance over 2018 and into 2019. The one piece of information, critical piece of information, however, that we don't currently have, and again, this is similar to Blue Water, is that we don't have monitoring devices directly in the wells to know what the actual groundwater level is. But certainly the output of the wells has not been compromised at this point. One of the things, and perhaps it's been addressed in the study that you're referring to, but while I'm not aware of a formal analysis, we certainly don't expect that current standard fire protection is achievable within the system.
That's what the analysis was all about, bringing it up, I got that.
In terms of actions through 2018 and projected into 2020, I understand that in 2018, before my time here, there was a well pump replaced. In 2019, nothing particular other than routine maintenance, to my knowledge. And moving into 2020, consistent with all the other systems, there's a number of longer-term performance issues that need to be assessed in all systems, and hasn't been brought to council or approved at this point, but I will be recommending a comprehensive water systems master plan to look at a variety of issues across island in all the municipal systems. We won't be looking at private systems.
That was about $1 million, wasn't it?
I had a preliminary, just ballpark value of $300,000 for a comprehensive study, but it needs the scope and budget of it needs further consideration before it is brought to council. So I would be fine
I know
to.
that's council's business, and that would be shared by every water system.
Correct.
So how many total that would be shared by council? You're an accountant, you should know this figure.
I believe there are a total of 1,000 connections out there.
1,200.
So 1,200, right?
That's 1,200.
Yeah, so,
$30. No, $300. $300.
I have a question about the, there's 3 pumps, I understand, and the third pump only kicks on when the well water or the to a certain level?
No, it'll probably be more driven by the demand on it, so it's usually, yeah, there's primary pumps and secondary and.
Are there logs for those pumps that indicate how often they come on?
Yeah.
Because I think if you monitor the pump use, it'll give you some indication of the amount of demand on the system.
Oh, yeah.
Because it'll tell you how often it drops to the half level.
You can actually get all that online.
Absolutely.
Right, but so what I'm indicating is, I think you'd earlier indicated we want sensors in the reservoir to indicate when it gets to certain levels, but I
Yep.
think you can look at pump use to give you the same info.
No, it doesn't. The well telemetry just tells you.
Oh, I see, you're.
When the
yes.
well's cut on and off.
Right.
But, so it tells you how much water is being taken out of the reservoir or
Right.
the bowl, but it doesn't tell you what the level. We know that it hasn't dropped enough to compromise the performance of the wells,
Mhm.
but we don't know where the water level is.
Okay.
Can I interject here? Basically, I believe we have the information of when the wells were drilled, where the water was at that time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yep.
I think that's pretty common
Yep.
information, and we should have that.
Yep.
And then as soon as the wells start, there's an initial little drop, because that's just the way things are, start pumping something up. But how much has it dropped since then?
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Correct.
And that is good information to have.
Yep.
I don't think anybody's gonna say that's bad information to have. That's probably the most crucial information to have.
And that can be dipped at 3 in the morning when there's been no demand for 6 hours. Probably indicates where the wells are at.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a manual process to do that. The ideal situation is that they get outfitted with permanent electronic information.
30,000 a well or whatever, right?
How much is it for that electronic information?
It varies. It really depends on whether the well is installed to permit space for that. Generally speaking, to fully outfit it, it's in the range of $10,000 to $20,000.
Per well.
Yeah, I would suggest though that in this case, you wouldn't need to put that telemetry in every well. It's probably,
Yeah.
one is adequately representative because they're all,
How far, because they're all within, how far are they? They're all within the wells are within.
I'd have to check the depth of these ones.
No, but I mean, the wells, the horizontal distance, the surface distance is, what, 200 yards is max between, well,
Yeah, to the other side, you would have to measure them.
anyway.
Yeah. But it's fully expected that they're all pulling from the same aquifer. That is the conclusion of my part.
Quick one,
Yep.
the 300,000 or whatever it is, that doesn't include putting the sensors in to get accurate info.
Yeah, it could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I need to, we certainly have recommended that at least one device be installed in Blue Water, or sorry, in Bowen Bay, as well as Blue Water. Yeah, I mean, it's, right now, the 300,000 estimate is a rough ballpark figure that needs to be refined. There is, as it turns out, we are learning that there's a lot of information that is currently available through various studies that others have done. So certainly in refining the scope, we will draw on as much existing information as we possibly can.
Okay.
What the primary focus of the master plan will be is more forward-looking, and rather than, there's lots of work that has kind of taken a snapshot of today. But as we're finding out, there's a lot of influences, infrastructure degradation, community growth, particularly in the Cove Bay system, climate change is certainly one, depletion of a few aquifers, that's one of the few missing pieces. So this is really about looking forward to make sure that there's a plan in place for sustainable water. It's not just looking at the situation today, but looking forward to make sure that everybody has the luxury of having a sustainable water supply.
I attended the meeting,
The one at Catesville Chapel?
yes.
Yeah.
And just a few observations from that one. One of them was the use of liters. It was very confusing because a lot of the figures were posted in liters per day, etc.,
Yeah,
which led to a lot of confusion because, of course, our meters are all in gallons.
right,
And people, we could tell in the meeting, they were confusing
right.
use of gallons versus liters. And then I understand some of the other systems are actually cubic meters.
Yeah, there's
And,
a lot of.
So, I think if you're gonna do an education piece, to try and bring people along to understand what's going on, I would suggest you try and get something that's consistent, and in our case, gallons make sense, because that's what people have been used to for so many years.
Yep.
And I really think it was, I think you said in the meeting, it was convenient for you, because you're used to metric,
Yep.
but, unfortunately, the
Our kids
consumers.
are getting used to metric.
And our children, my son gets upset when I tell him I want 2 centimeters for the pie things. But anyway, so I would like to point that out. And then the other one, I don't know how it was mentioned in the meeting, but there was this notion of outliers brought up in the meeting. And I thought that was a bit inflammatory, actually, because I feel, and I think the context was that some homes are using a lot more water than others. And is that what it was meant to mean? Because
I'd have to go back and
Okay,
memory banks on the context.
because I think we should be careful there, because really, if you have a family of 5 or 6 living on their property full-time with a vegetable garden,
Yep.
they're gonna use a heck of a lot more water than a couple living part-time in their home.
Even if they don't have a vegetable garden.
Yes,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
the system is there to serve that family of 5 or 6 that are living there full-time.
Yep.
I mean, they, in a way, are less environmental footprint than those of us that
Well,
like that too.
That's why, that's the basis of 240 gallons per day.
Yeah.
Which is 1 cubic meter plus. Is it 1.1 cubic meter? I think it is.
Well, it's confusing, right?
240, yeah.
And how much,
Yeah, it is about a cubic
It's
meter.
1.1,
and
But
how many gallons
that's
that's-
Canadian standard, that's what you're supposed to have in developed
Yeah,
properties.
Yeah.
one cubic meter.
Yeah. So there you go. 1 cubic meter is 240 gallons.
Yeah.
Per
No.
household.
Then the last thing is, there was, again, I got the sense in the meeting, yes, we need to control our water use, especially if you were used to working in Metro Vancouver. A lot of the water goes out into the Fraser River, into the ocean. Whereas the majority of the water we use goes back into the ground. It's like recharge through our septic fields and through our irrigation systems.
And evaporate.
And there's evaporation, well, no, there's not a lot of evaporation on the water we use, it comes, some evaporates when you're irrigating, but we're actually doing recharge through our system, which a
Not
lot of
really.
municipalities are all excited about and trying to
Actually, I would
encourage.
disagree with that because we're so near to the ocean for,
Mhm. Yeah.
that most of it is going downhill and is not really being recharged.
It was true, some of us that are close to the ocean, but even, the habitat we create between, even at the ocean's edge, if we're encouraging the growth of trees and vegetation, we're actually doing what a lot of municipalities want done, which is more, But anyway, I just want to point out that we seem to be tarred with a lot of concepts that are dealt with in Metro Vancouver, whereas Bowen is a totally different animal. It's like the control of wood burning fire. This initiative is going on through Metro. Yeah, of course, in the city of Vancouver you can't have wood burning fire, but Bowen with the number of blowdown.
We all live in the same atmosphere.
True.
We don't mind our smoke going up to them.
Yeah.
We just don't want their smoke
But
going
anyway,
up.
I thought we should at least have a grounding of Bowen values when we're evaluating and talking about water use and things like that, and the fact that the water isn't necessarily totally if we've got a healthy system, say in Bowen Bay, and it's functioning, we're actually bringing water from deep areas to the surface and using it on the surface to do things. And nothing, and yes, Patricia, some of it is near the ocean and runs right in the ocean, but even most septic fields aren't supposed to run into the ocean, right? And that's where a lot of the water ends up. So I would just like to
Yeah, but
point
it's
out,
not charging up our aquifer, quite honestly.
yes, but we are fortunate, at least by Bowen,
Okay, I
that our aquifer does get
We're
charged.
getting a little off topic here.
Yeah, but anyway, I just,
Yeah, that's a
this is
global.
the public portion of the meeting, right? So I can talk, I guess as a member of public, although I'm pleased to be part of the committee, and I just thought at this portion of the meeting, I'd sort of bring out some observations from attending the last public meeting at Kate's Chapel that we need to think going forward is certainly, you know, get us on a consistent metric. Because we're gonna educate people on water use, you know, they get confused.
Just so I'm clear, could you elaborate on your comment there about getting tarred with Metro Vancouver items or issues?
Yeah, well, I'm a real estate developer that works in Vancouver and all the municipalities and does a lot of work. And one of the concepts that everyone is very keen on is groundwater recharge. So all our stormwater is to be directed wherever possible into infiltration galleries and returned to ground. And also in Metro Vancouver, they have huge growth projected, 1 million people more in the next 10 to 12 years. And so the use of water is very precious. So yes, we are all mandated to conserve and protect the water supply. Bowen, on the other hand, is a different animal. We're not going to have 30% growth in Bowen in the next 12 years. It's just not going to happen. It's a different type of thing. And then our water is, by nature, like septic fields and whatnot, is recharged, which is different than most of Metro Vancouver. And it'd be fun to look at other aspects of Bowen. But I'm just answering the question here. And so that's, you know, two of the things. I mean, I'm sure there's many other things that you could actually, you know, using good engineering principles of design in Coquitlam on Burke Mountain, it might be different than in Bowen.
Thanks for clarification.
John, just be careful about trying to sell the reuse of water through the septic fields, because the system that we're sitting on here, it's going through sand filtration right at the water edge, right? So, you know, and that's probably a third of the people in Bowen.
Right.
So, it's minimal. But I agree with you totally about at least a lot of the water overused here is actually going back into vegetation. At least if you look at my white stack.
Spoken by tree gardeners along here.
No more questions, shall we step into the LAC?
Yeah.
Do we kind of switch over or anything, Sophie,
Yes,
or?
just a second.
Okay.
I think I'm still chair.